I wanted to take this opportunity to make an aspect video about the Mercury conjunct Saturn aspect in general and some of its more positive potential manifestations. Austin Coppock succinctly described this aspect in the following way. If Saturn represents the structural challenges and pressures of a time period, then having Mercury inspect those challenges is really useful. Because instead of having a general anxiety about things, Mercury brings with it a practice of looking with precision at what the situation is and really making it thinkable. And from Mercury's perspective, Saturn provides discipline and concentration. This aspect does have the potential to pull thinking in a negative or depressive direction, but both of these planets are relatively happy in the sign of Aquarius, which is where it is currently transiting. There's a lot of really good opportunity to think coldly and in a calculated or slightly detached manner. Chris Brennan summarized this combination by saying that Mercury-Saturn combinations are known for sobriety of thought and succinctness of speech. When we are looking at this energy by transit, then this aspect stands out because the thought that it initiates is, how are you going to talk your way out of this one? Saturn represents some kind of difficult sticking point that has kept us down for some time as it has transited a particular area of the natal chart for each of us. And Mercury is the notorious trickster or problem solver. Mercury has the reputation of being able to sell a coffin to a dead man. And we could honestly use this energy moving over Saturn at this point. The sticking point needs some alternative solutions thrown at it. Tim Ferriss is a person who has Mercury conjunct Saturn in his natal chart. I like to point out people with particular energies in their charts who have made the most of certain difficult influences. Saturn is a malefic planet and is, by all regards, a difficult influence. Wherever Saturn is placed in the chart, this is an area of life that will regularly come up against resistance. It is, however, possible to become conscious of difficult aspects and positions in the chart and to intentionally invest oneself into the higher manifestation of that energy. In other words, Tim Ferriss could have allowed himself to be overwhelmed by the pursuit of an intellectual life. However, he chose the path of moving through that resistance, and because of that, he has quite a list of accomplishments to show for it. He is widely considered to be a polymath, or a person of wide-ranging knowledge and learning. He has written 5 best-selling books. He has a top-ranked podcast and a long list of accomplishments. I'll drop a link below where you can read more about him. His intellectual accomplishments are things that he can look back on with pride because these battles were not easily won. Ferriss has admitted to living with bipolar depression and comes from a long line of family members with the same condition. When asked what sets him apart, he will say that he doesn't believe that he's much smarter than the average person, but he says what really distinguishes him from others is his endurance for suffering. Suffering is a byproduct of Saturn. In the context of Mercury conjoined with Saturn, this means he has the ability to stay with hard projects, to dig deeper, to focus harder, and to do more work than anyone around him. He boasts that he can outsuffer anyone. Ferriss is big on thought exercises that help individuals reconceptualize the way they are oriented to life. This demonstrates his mind's ability to hack itself. In other words, Mercury, or the mind, understands its limits very well when conjunct Saturn, which is the planet of limits and restrictions. In order to get around or through one's own perceived limitations, Mercury has to be willing to take hard criticism and bend information in just the right ways. This is what enables Ferriss to become a super learner. He does not negate his limitations, he uses them. Ferriss has said, if more information were the answer, we'd all be billionaires with six-pack abs. What he means by this is the acquisition of knowledge or information is not enough in and of itself. The information must be useful in some way, and this is the gift of Saturn with Mercury. Saturn will sort irrelevant information so as to be left with only what is useful. In a 2017 interview with Tom Bilyeu, Ferriss suggested that we all ask ourselves the question, how might some of my biggest weaknesses be strengths or assets? This is one example of looking at perceived weaknesses and discovering the innate strength and potential of those characteristics. Another mental exercise that he regularly participates in is something he calls morning pages, which is essentially journaling in the morning so that you can get all those loose, ricocheting thoughts down on paper. This way they don't distract you for the rest of the day. Instead, you trap a thought by freezing it on paper. Again, trapping or constricting a thought is a very Saturnian approach to mercurial activity. Ferriss said that practice has been tremendously liberating for him. And this is a very unique feature of Saturn that is important to point out. With Saturn aspects, when we devote ourselves to hard work, or we take on the practice of constricting or confining ourselves in some way, then that becomes the very thing that liberates us in the end. So especially while Mercury is conjunct Saturn, this is a good time to devote yourself to working hard on the thing you know you need to be doing. It will pay off in the long run. Look at where transiting Saturn is in your chart currently. Think about what has been a sticking point in your life while Saturn has occupied that particular sign and whole sign house position. Saturn transiting a certain area of your life can often feel heavy, burdensome, and difficult. When Mercury comes through and conjoins Saturn, chances are you'll be getting new insights or information about how that energy can possibly move going forward. It's a really great opportunity to get unstuck, but you've got to be willing to do the hard mental work in order to keep things moving. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe for more astrology content and aspect videos.